I'm a porn star.
What? So here I am sitting out here about to have a discussion that them boys smoking dope. I ought to call the goddamn cops on them something. Daddy gonna give them an ass whooping. That's what they gonna do. What's up, guys? Andrew Lane here. Also Drewberry Muffins, as you would call me on social media platforms, and my YouTube, DREWBERRYMUFFNS. No I. So I'm making this video. I've tried to make videos before about this, but I've accidentally deleted them. This video, sorry, I'm watching some people right now doing donuts in the parking lot here at the river as I was trying to enjoy this beautiful scenery here. Trying to make this video look special. People often come here to this river to, in fact, get stoned with their friends and then stare at the water, imagining what their life's going to be like working at the gas station. You know what I'm talking about. I'm in no way trying to say that stoners work at gas stations. Some do. It's not, but that's completely not the way that it normally works. Anyway, this video is going to be about bipolar disorder. I'm just going to be talking about, my diagnosis, how I've learned to live with things, and how you can learn to live with things. Like I said, I've tried to make these videos before. I've accidentally deleted them, or necessarily they didn't completely end in the way that I had liked them to at the time. Maybe subjects I was going through. Regardless, let's jump on into this. So, bipolar disorder, to my knowledge, I don't know everything about the actual clinical descriptions, because I know there's like 2, maybe 3 different technical clinical versions of what a person could have. But I know that there's like manic and then manic bipolar depression or something like that. And then there's, regardless, you do your own research, you figure out exactly the specifics about bipolar disorder and whatever you've been diagnosed with. I know for me, I can have manic episodes or things that can send me into manic fits, but it's not necessarily completely unstructured in the sense that like they just often randomly happen. Depression can randomly happen and last for varying periods of time, but as far as going like full on off the deep end or whatever, that kind of normally is set off for me by a particular something, things of which I've actually kind of been able to narrow down as time has went on and avoid. But the only reason I've been able to do that more or less is because I had an earlier diagnosis. And a lot of people try to argue, well, you don't have to be diagnosed to have a mental disorder. No, you don't have to have a doctor tell you that you have a specific something, because doctors can be full of crap. Doctors can be absolutely wrong. My thing that I would just suggest is really do your research and have other people look at you and evaluate you, because you're going to see in you whatever you're afraid you're going to see in you. I was thoroughly convinced that I had tapeworms and ringworms and roundworms and every other kind of worms, all because there was a piece of corn in my turd one time. And I just knew it was an egg of something that was a much larger problem that I was going to end up having to kill myself, because I could not possibly imagine squeezing out like a 30-foot worm. But it wasn't. I've had a lot of tests done, and I've had a camera up my butt and down my mouth to show that there's nothing inside of my body except gas. With that being said, self-diagnosis is dangerous. A lot of people tell themselves they have all kinds of things. That's kind of where the root of being able to glamorize mental illness on social media has come from, is because it went from being something that we need to accept to being something that we think is awesome. And it's awesome in the sense that it can make you who you are, but that can be a good and or a bad thing. It can be beautiful, it can be terrible, but it's about how you treat it. With that being said, all that out of the way, bipolar disorder can really affect your mood. It can cause serious mood swings. It can cause things to affect you in ways that are a lot more strong than it would affect other people on an average basis. But for me, one of the most important things was to pretty much learn what sets me off. Because that's the thing. I was diagnosed at the age of 14, almost 15. And I'm sorry, I keep getting distracted. Anyway, I was diagnosed at a very early age. Various times, obviously with anxiety disorder as well, and depression, things like that. But with bipolar disorder, it wasn't really freaky for me, because I had watched a show called Degrassi, and I had experience watching one of the characters who was diagnosed with it, and they made a much bigger deal out of it, and they made him out to be like this frightful, violent monster without his medication, because he just magically had bipolar disorder one day. Instead of it developing over time, he just managed to finally have an extreme episode and beat the crap out of his dad. I'm sure that may have happened at some point in people's lives, but bipolar people are not vicious monsters. If somebody tells you if you are diagnosed with bipolar disorder, don't be afraid. You're not going to Shrek out and start killing people because you're swamp or whatever. You're not going to start yelling donkey at people and threatening them with onions. I promise you, you're a normal person. You just have some quirks, some things that if anybody's going to be in your life, they have to understand. That is why it bothers me that people are afraid to discover that they have bipolar disorder. It's because people fear hearing a title being attached to their problems, which is kind of funny because in reality, when you find out what is wrong, it gives you the opportunity to understand it. It gives you the opportunity to discover how to work with it, how to help it. And most of all, one of the most important things for anyone's life is communication and those around you that you love or care about. Your friends, your girlfriend, boyfriend, whoever, your family that you care about. How can you possibly... It's such a struggle to have people in your life if they don't understand you and you don't understand them, or you don't have a mutual understanding where you can work with each other. For me, if there's certain things that set me off, if there's certain things, not like I don't get vicious and violent, but I do get really depressed and go off in downward spirals of being like isolating myself for periods of time. If I know certain things that could do that to me, and I'm talking to someone maybe that romantically there's potential for a relationship, they're gonna know those specific things, and we're going to have an understanding of that. So not necessarily to tell them, avoid doing this, avoid doing that, trying to control them. It's just, this is what can bother me. This is some stuff that can happen. We try to work on this together. I got distracted because the cutest thing in the entire world is going on right now. This little dude right here is learning how to ride the little thing. Another lighting is not as good over here, but I had to relocate because there was this dude who just came down the river like shredding on this thing. I'd never seen it. It was like this super cool rafty surfboard looking thing, and he had to paddle, and like the wife and the kid pull up high-speed chicken feeding, and they hop out and they're like, yeah, here comes daddy, and then here he comes like just out of nowhere like a mythical dragon up the river. And it was amazing. It was so majestic, and he just hops up on the bank all cool and stuff. Like, you know, he went to Princeton or some crap, and like he probably paid for it himself off of money from owning a restaurant for like 10 years. And now he's a lawyer who shreds the river. But it blew my mind. And like they were having their little family time, like hugging and kissing, and the kid was trying to learn with the little paddle thing. And I was like, I don't want to like smother out there a little spot by the river or whatever. So anyways, back to the point, okay? Yes, I don't know where I was at exactly, but I'm going to try to do this right and try to sum it up. So communication is incredibly important. Just like what I just saw. That family, okay, they communicated somehow. She knew to show up at the right spot at the right time. Dude had a GoPro. He probably has his whole setup. He's shredding it. His rig is tight. But that's the thing. People are going to be in your life. They didn't understand. Try to maybe avoid this a little bit. Or like, understand me. If I'm going to have a bad day, this is how I might probably get when I'm going through a rough period. And it's not you. It's literally not you. And it's not necessarily me. It's my head. And it's okay. And it's normal for me. That's the whole thing. It's like, but the more you know about yourself and what is normal for you, and understanding why it's normal for you, because it is different. Like with autism, different ends of the spectrum and stuff like that, or whatever your situation is, there's always stuff that is general symptoms and signs, but then it goes off into the whole magical world of individuality based on the person, based on what screws with you, based on what sets you off in particular. That's not going to be the same for everyone. Hearing someone, I don't know, get a little loud with their pitch when they get pissy or something like that might make you spiral into anger or depression or anxiety or whatever. Just little stuff like that could be very specific to your bipolar disorder. Certain things maybe from your past that are traumatized to you, that if they get brought up, they can screw with the chemicals in your brain or however it really works and set you off, that you just try to avoid as much as possible. Most things we want to and try to avoid, we can't avoid them all the time forever. But if you understand them, at the very least, you can communicate them. And when you're afraid to understand your own illnesses, how will you ever make a better potential life for yourself and for relationships and stuff? And again, you could say, well, I want to keep certain things private so certain relationships can develop. I assure you there's not a relationship of any kind or formation in this world that if they can't accept you for who you are and grow to love you for who you are, they are not in a relationship with you. They are imprisoned. They do not care about you the way that they should, and you deserve better. They don't deserve you. It can be frightening, the feeling that something's wrong with me. But the thing is, before you even got a diagnosis, you knew something was wrong. You knew that there was something going on that wasn't quite right, that it didn't seem right for a long time, caused you to struggle, caused you internal issues between yourself and others that you cared about. You knew that already. Adding a name to it doesn't make it, I mean, for some people, maybe it does make it more real. I guess kind of like losing a loved one. If somebody's like, actually confirms, the doctor confirms they're actually dead, it solidifies like this is legit, even if you kind of already knew it. But it's such a more cleansing, better world to really understand what's going on with you, to break it down. And for me, I love being open as humanly possible. I know everybody's not like that. But knowing things about myself like this and knowing how to cope, specifically for me, has made leagues of a difference with how I have people in my life and how I interact with people. And there's going to be people who are going to make fun of you. We live in a world where there's assholes who like putting people down. It's funny too, because most of them have their own mental disorders of some kind, and they like putting other people down, but they don't want to be put down. And it's funny how that works. People are hypocrites. But again, the more you know about yourself, the more you can just let that stuff go, put it off and let it be. But with bipolar disorder, it's very important that you know and you pay close attention to what sets you off, what upsets you, what puts you in a very negative mind frame, because your mind's always already kind of fighting against you and with you at the same time. And how can you at least keep that balance as even? You're never going to be too much on one side or the other. That's not your goal. You're going to be too much on, let me just rephrase that. You will be on too much on one side or the other at times, but it's not your goal. Your main goal is to know how to balance you the best you can. Nobody's going to do it for you, but you can do it for yourself, and your quality of life will be incredible. And you're still gonna suffer. There's no magic cure in this world. There's no medication or religion or anything you can find that's gonna take away your suffering. That's going to make you live this perfect, peachy, happy life. And if you see somebody pretending to, they're pretending to, and they're full of shit. It's just, I think we're all trying to figure out how to suffer better. We're all trying to figure out how to suffer a little bit easier. You know what I mean? Bits at a time. We're all growing, we're all learning, but do not be afraid of a diagnosis. Do not be afraid to accept who you are, and you're not going to do. My camera keeps cutting off. I'm apparently running out of internal space, whatever. So the point of this whole thing is you kind of get a hold of it. It's better to learn about what you got. It's better to try to work on accepting what you have. And the most important thing is just know that there's nothing wrong with you. Okay, you're not weird. You're not screwed up just because you have bipolar disorder or any disorder, really. You just have some things about you that ain't like everybody else, which is pretty much everybody. So you're wonderful just as you are. I hope so. I hope you're not a piece of crap. As long as you're good to other people, you're good. But continue to work at it. Continue to work at learning yourself. Don't be afraid to accept something as being a part of who you are. And the biggest thing, learn how to communicate with the other people in your life. I'm going to do more about this as I clear up space, but I love you guys. And most importantly, if you haven't, click that subscribe button. If you made it this far in the video, the button down there or wherever the heck it's at that says subscribe to my channel. Check out my other videos. Maybe you'll like my comedy. Maybe you won't. Maybe some of it's too vulgar for you. Whatever. Drew Berry Muffins. Find me on Instagram. There's links going to be in the description. Twitter and Tumblr and also Snapchat. And I guess I'm using TikTok just because people bothered me enough about it. But y'all have a great rest of your whatever this is. Peace out.